fear is really only false evidence appearing real. What if it's not going to be that bad?
We can use it in a way as fuel to help push us through that thing that we're dealing with or facing or that decision.
And we're incrementally moving towards that. Yes, it's a little bit messy. There are going to be winding roads, but that is okay. It's having the courage to move forward. Welcome to Career Compass, mapping your future. Visit yourcareerrevolution.com today to get your free guide on the benefits of working with a career ownership coach. Hello again, and welcome to Career Compass, the show dedicated to helping you map your future as you reimagine and reclaim the life of your dreams. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of our 10-episode season dedicated to the 10 steps of your ideal career. My name is Tamara Loring, and I'm with the Entrepreneur Source. If you don't know anything about us, we have been around for over 40 years. And the one thing that we have done is obsess over empowering individuals to figure out what it will take to become self-sufficient and to take action. If self-sufficiency is something that's been on your mind and you keep on thinking, gosh, there has to be a better way. I need to figure out how to take control of my professional career and I want to be self-sufficient, then I would encourage you, reach out and experience for yourself what our unique patented coaching experience is all about. Today, organizational psychologist Dr. Mike and I want to explore a topic near and dear to my heart. It's about risk, real or perceived, and how not to allow fear to hold you back from the life that you were meant to live. As always, Dr. Mike, go ahead, let's say hello, and I would love to dive in and start asking you a bunch of questions.
Sounds good, T. Hello, good morning, and hello to all of our listeners. And as always, thank you so much for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. And I know that I've read some of your work, and you and I have had many conversation about, the human condition and fear and what it actually means. Do you have a story that maybe comes to mind where you recall facing fear and wondering whether you should explore going forward, or where it held you back and you retreated back to your comfort zone? Anything that comes to mind that's worthwhile sharing?
So, it's funny you ask that because as I sit here and think, there have been many times over my life, my military career, my civilian career, growing up as a kid, but especially, during the military career where there were points where I actually made a change in my career. I went to a different job, different career field, right? So 12 years in, here I am, cross-training into a brand new job, people I didn't know, a job I didn't know, a process I didn't know, going to a new base.
Mm-hmm.
Even in my civilian career, right, applying for a new job to try and move up. I'll be honest, in every single one of those instances, there was definitely an element of fear that was trying to hold me back. But the difference was, and this is exactly what we're talking about, and that's why I so love what you all do, is in every one of those situations, because I learned early on not to rely on my own thought process all the time, right? And just go with my own gut, my own instinct, right? My own emotion. So in every one of those cases, I found someone, right? Someone senior to me, someone who was in the career field I was going to go into, a mentor, at times a coach, to help talk me off the ledge a little bit and then look at things objectively, right? Instead of subjectively acting on the fear, because, we'll get into this, but fear is very powerful and it's real. But just like everything else, there's two sides to every coin, right? So you can do what you said, right? That some people deal with, is let it stop us in our tracks.
Yeah.
Or we can use it in a way as fuel to help push us through that thing that we're dealing with or facing or that decision.
Yeah, no, it's something that I think about a lot, because we see it with so many of our clients and the people we work with, or like you said, our own experiences. And it, makes me think, as a child, when you experience something new, it's almost like a sense of adventure and there's a curiosity and you're not even thinking that failure is an option. And then I'm not sure what happens to us as adults, but we feel like maybe and this is just my own personal story, that maybe I'm being judged, that I should know better by now. What if this is not going to work? I need to get it right, and all these thoughts are so paralyzing as opposed to empowering. One of the favorite acronyms that I've heard over time, because every time I fear something and I feel it, I think of these four words. What if fear is really only false evidence appearing real? What if it's not going to be that bad? If I think about best case scenario, worst case scenario, what is this thing that I need to muster courage up for to pursue? Right? If I don't take action, will I regret it? Or is it just uncomfortable because I've never done it before? Does it mean I just need to grow and learn more about it, right? So I really have to like coach myself through it, because obviously fear is like red flags. Hey, wait a minute. This is risky. This is bad. Do not go forward, right? Stop in your tracks. So it's interesting how I guess, just overemphasize the risk associated with what we're about to do, when there may not actually be as much risk, where maybe it's riskier not to take action as opposed to taking action.
Right. Right. And the one thing that I would add to that, just real quick before we move on, is, fear is not a bad thing. I mean, it's put into us for a reason. That's kind of in our DNA, right? It does protect us from a lot of things, but that slippery slope is, to your point, when we let it stop us in our tracks from progressing, evolving, moving on, and getting better, or let it keep us in a place where we know that we're not truly living, we don't feel fulfilled, all those kinds of things. So that's where the danger is when we let it paralyze us
Mm,
versus let it serve as fuel to push us through.
right. Or maybe even, striving for perfection. The thought that comes to mind, right? It's researching, 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 and inevitably you start suffering from paralysis by analysis, and
Yep.
you're not really making any progress. Or the other goal, maybe it is so unrealistic because you're looking for 100% guarantee, and just giving yourself grace and realizing that, what, in life, there's never 100% guarantee. But maybe if you get the information, you think about it, and you're bold enough to take action, at least it's one step closer in the right direction.
Right. Yep. 100%.
Um, so, as we think about fear and what we can do about it, I think it really helps when we start thinking about our own mindset, right? Starting there and just really figuring out a way on how to reframe it. One of my favorite quotes is actually from Edison, where while he was experimenting, he started saying, "Hey, look, I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that something won't work." And, I don't know why adults, we get so hard on ourselves when we make a mistake, right? Because most mistakes are not fatal. Actually, if you really think about it, it's an opportunity to learn what doesn't work or what needs to be fine tuned, just like Edison. And thankfully, he didn't quit after 100 times or even 1,000 times. Otherwise, who knows where humanity would be today. So thank goodness he had the tenacity to keep going, because he knew that there was going to be greatness beyond that point where it felt impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. So another thing I like about that is, if you really think about the the fear, right, holding us back, or the times that we do fail. All of those things really, and there's a lot of cliches out there, but they really are just, you know, road markers along our journey to the end destination of the GPS, right? Those times that we learn, which is what we really should be doing in leverage, when we learn from our mistakes or from those failures, you're absolutely right. What does that show us? That shows us what won't work. And it also provides a sort of a guardrail, right, to kind of keep us narrowed and keep us heading in the right direction. So I love that you brought that quote up, because that is very true.
Yeah, I was just gonna comment the same on you. I love the GPS analogy, right? I mean, imagine if we made a decision before we even got into the car whether we're gonna go or not, because we don't know what lies ahead, right? With the GPS, we may not know what lies ahead, but you know what? If there's a detour, so what? Okay, we take a detour. Maybe it wasn't the intended route, but it's gonna get us maybe there 5 minutes later. all fine, right? We don't just give up if suddenly there's an accident or a flat tire or something like that and be like, oh, well, I guess I'm never going to make it to my destination. I think life and our careers is about that course, the constant course correcting, right? As long as we have a goal, we have a vision, and we're incrementally moving towards that. Yes, it's a little bit messy. There are going to be winding roads, but that is okay. It's having the courage to move forward, and as I think about people that I like to emulate or people that I admire, sometimes we focus so much on just people's successes, like I'm thinking
Yes.
entrepreneurs, but most entrepreneurs or every entrepreneur that I can think of that I've ever spoken to, or a business owner or somebody who is a leader, will say that there have been so many failures. As a matter of fact, many people will say the things that I learned from my mistakes or the failures that have actually shaped me or have made me realize on what to do to make it better. So I don't think there's a single person today who's successful who just was instantly successful, right? Just giving ourselves grace and giving ourselves permission to learn along the way.
Right. And, another benefit of, you know, really embracing fear in the right way, right? And stepping into it and learning from those mistakes, it really starts to give you an internal sense of resiliency, increased self-esteem, increased self-confidence, and just the belief in yourself that you can do it, right? When you have that clear goal, right? Purpose, passion, vision in your life and you're aligned with it, and you surround yourself with good people, which is, what we're talking about here this morning, right? The coach, right? The career coach that can really help you unpack and bring clarity to that. When you do that, all those things just turn into internal strengths, right? They help to build you, to refine you, to make you better, stronger, give you more insight, more clarity. So the benefits of stepping into fear again in the right way at the right time for the right reason versus always choosing to run or
Mm.
to suppress or to ignore is just, I mean, it's the two are night and day.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I don't know whether you noticed what Dr. Mike just did there. He actually gave us some strategies on how to build resistance. He gave us some tools, right? So if you heard him right, it starts with mindset, creating a vision and the self talk that something is possible, even though you may not know how to quite get there yet, something that you can be hopeful about, something that you can get excited about, right? That is what a good mindset or a proper mindset, or let me not even say good or proper mindset, right? What is that? Think about whether your mindset is empowering or disempowering. And if it's disempowering, figure out a way to change that and find something that you can be hopeful about, right? That is what creating a vision is. And that's what Dr. Mike was talking about. And in order to then figure out how a way to make your vision become a reality, I would say adopt a mindset of continuous learning, even if it's not clear yet. The more you think about it, the more you learn about it, the more you take action, it will become clearer. We talk about it at the Entrepreneur Source as to coaching to clarity. And that goes to the last and final point that Dr. Mike made is surround yourself with people who get it, people who can encourage you, a strong support network, right? Seek mentorship. When I think about what I have accomplished in my life, it wouldn't have been possible if I didn't have people who some days actually, quite frankly, believed more in me and my potential than I did myself. I remember there were times when I'm like, oh man, I don't know. I felt like a hypocrite maybe or imposter syndrome, right? When people said, you can do it. I'm like, why do they think I can? And thank goodness they did. Because now when I look back, oh my gosh, how sad would my life have been if I never took action? But it's so nice when you have people who believe in you and give you the motivation and the courage. And like I said, sometimes maybe they see something that you don't even see for yourself.
Right. And if I could, I just want to throw in a little nugget, and this one's totally on the house. So, some of the things you just mentioned when you surround yourself with other people, right? The right kind of people, when you observe successful people, you hear the cliche saying all the time that success leaves clues. The second part to that is, did you know that it is psychologically impossible for you to recognize a trait, a characteristic, or an element of someone else's behavior that is not in you, right? So if you can see someone, look at someone and identify they're a very charismatic person, like they are awesome. that means it's charisma is in you too. You have that in you, right? If you can look at someone else and see, certain traits of leadership, empathy, and you can understand that and realize what it is, that means it's in you too. So again, that goes back to, having belief in yourself, surrounding yourself with the right people. And that's why I think a lot of times people tell us, of course, our family are like, oh, yeah, you can do it because they love you, they care about you, they want to lift you up. But when you talk to other business people or entrepreneurs or other people that you aspire to be like and hang out with, if they're the ones telling you, yeah, you should apply for that job because I know you can do it. They're seeing something in you that you don't. So it's there. But sometimes we just need someone to help give us that little nudge, right? And kickstart us.
Oh my gosh, I love it. That was a bonus. Honestly, I've never even thought about it. And even as we were prepping for today's podcast, I never saw that one coming. But oh my goodness, how cool is that? And how empowering is that? If you can recognize it in others, in order for you to have the ability to recognize it, it means that it has to be within you. So even if it doesn't feel like it, right? Like even if you use the word charismatic, right? Even if I don't feel like I have that, if I can recognize it in others, I definitely have it within me. That is so cool. What a gift. Thank you so much, Dr. Mike. So, next, I want us to talk a little bit about okay, so if, we can understand the vision and we can see the potential, how do we overcome this aversion to risk? Before I let you comment on it, my thoughts are, and I would love for you to pick that apart, is things in life are only risky if you're not informed and educated on that topic, right? If you allow yourself to rid yourself of the fear of making a decision. I mean, what's the problem with a decision? If I knew that I always had the ability to make the right or the best decision for myself, it wouldn't be a problem, right? It wouldn't feel risky at all because I'd have the confidence that I can do it. But it's the fact that most of us fear that we're going to make a bad or a wrong decision, something that we cannot recover from, something that is going to be fatal, something that's going to put us back even further behind, right? That is the problem with decisions. So if we can free ourselves from just making a decision and say, let me have that childlike curiosity. Let me educate myself. Let me get the information. What will happen is there will come a point where I'll have clarity about what my options are. And the option of not taking action at all will actually become more risky than taking action, even if it means that I need to be bold and that I need to be courageous. But, looking for something to feel 100% comfortable is going to always elude me. But if at least I can get to the point where I feel like I can make an informed choice, then it will feel less risky and it also won't feel like it's going to be a bad or the wrong decision. I can make an informed choice and then work on making it the best decision in my life. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And, to use the analogy, you talked about the fear of the unknown um, and making the decisions. If you look back, when we grew up, when we were born and then we grew up, we started by what? Being able to turn over as a baby, then being able to crawl, and then being able to walk, then being able to jog, then run, then you start building your social skills and fitting in. So life is a journey, right? Everything we do is a journey. And it's the same thing with deciding to change careers or just having that feeling inside you that there's something, I think you said this earlier, right? There's got to be more out there. Like there's got to be something better, something bigger, a better way for me to contribute. So just start by taking the baby steps, right? Even if it is reaching out to a career coach, just to explore, like that doesn't hurt anything. But what it does, to your point, it turns the fear of the unknown into known through research, through education, through talking to others, right? Through reading articles, right? So you can squash that fear of the unknown and to some degree make it known by doing exactly the things that you're talking about. I would just challenge everyone over this next week to pick one thing, right, that has been in your mind that you've been holding off or pushing out because of fear, right? Even if it's a small thing, and just really step into it and explore it, right? Take the risk, right? And just do something to move yourself forward. So that's just a little challenge I'd like to throw out over the next week. Just pick one thing that's been bugging you, right? And just dive into it.
Yeah. And what I've typically found, Doc, is when you recognize the fear and you challenge yourself to just take one step, usually what happens is you start looking back and you're like, why did I make such a big deal out of this? It wasn't that bad because, like, most of the time, whatever that thing is that we don't have confidence in is not as bad as we think it's going to be, whether it's public speaking, whether it's exploring entrepreneurial endeavors, whether it's looking maybe even for a different job, whatever that is, right? Just taking one step towards it and seeing what happens, right? We're not asking people to be reckless or, self sabotage or anything like that. But in order to get to the learning zone or even the opportunity zone, we need to leave our current comfort zone. And inevitably, when we leave our current comfort zone, it means that we're going to step into the fear zone because we just haven't done it yet. We don't have experience there. We are affected by other people's opinions because we're unsure. But in order to get to the learning zone, we just have to realize that we don't have to make any decisions. It is really about gathering the information, understanding the pros and cons, and taking a baby step towards it. And oh my gosh, once you do, it builds so much confidence. The adrenaline rush is incredible. It then makes it almost addictive. Like you want to do it more and more and more and again and again and again. And that is how progress is made. I love the compound effect of, intentional small steps every single day. And over time, you won't even believe the progress that you've made.
Yeah, and if I could real quick, you said something really important that I do want to reinforce because it is a truly important point that I don't want to gloss over, right? You said, you made the comment, we're not asking you to do anything reckless, right? And that is such an important thing to remember. When we're talking about, fear and risk, we're not talking about equating that to carelessness, right? Or just kind of willy-nilly just diving in and doing it without doing the research, right? When you're talking about risk and fear and addressing those and taking those, right? It's got to be strategic, thoughtful, purposeful, and meaningful, right? So it's got to meet those four elements because that's something inside of you then that you have enough emotional connection to actually give you those little emotional indicators along the way as you move forward and help guide you. So again, I'm so glad you said that because we're not saying just go off and try something you've never done before just because you're scared of it. What No, we're talking in the context of moving your life forward, right? Whether that's personal, professional, social. So again, thoughtful, purposeful, meaningful, strategic.
I love that. And this is coming from what I don't know whether you guys know is Dr. Mike is not only an organizational psychologist, but he was with the Air Force, right? He flew with the Thunderbirds. He understands risk. When I think about what risk means to Doc and what risk means to me, for me, risk means, right? Do we have another business strategy? Are we ready to deploy? Do we want to deploy new technology? But my gosh, rarely, well, not rarely, never is somebody's life in danger, right? Nobody's going to die on the operating table. I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm not a nuclear scientist. And certainly I'm not with the Air Force. So, definitely pay attention to when Doc talks about risk because people's lives were at stake, right? A bad move or bad decision absolutely could be fatal. But for most of us, we're in the situation where it really just takes courage, baby steps. And then we realize that the thing we feared was probably mostly false evidence appearing real. So, as we get ready to wrap up here, we've touched on it several times, right? There's no need to go at it alone. Surround yourself with people who get where you want to go, people who can challenge you, right? Because this is not just going to be about hanging out with like minded individuals, because if we're all stuck in our own current comfort zone, that is not going to be helpful. But it's really somebody who's willing to have frank conversations with you, somebody who's willing to challenge your beliefs or your blind spots, right? That is a healthy mentor. That is a healthy coaching relationship. And that is certainly something that our career ownership coaches do for our seekers and our clients because we realize that people need to leave their comfort zone, but it's not easy. It is wrought with fear, right? But fear doesn't need to determine your future. We certainly won't let your one point or your past determine your future. Give yourself permission to dream. And like I said, we're asking you to just keep an open mind and make no decisions prematurely. That is all you need to do in order to engage in our coaching methodology and explore what's possible. We will help you create a vision of what that North Star, your future could look like. We'll help you explore the possibilities so you can think about the pros and cons so that you can educate yourself about what could be possible. Look, once clarity hits you, you will know what your options are. Then it's your choice whether you take action or not. And look, even action takes courage, but at least you will know what the possibilities are for you.
Yep. Yep. So I would also add to that, at the end of the day, to kind of help with icing on the cake, when it comes down to your future and your life, to our listeners is, seriously bet on yourself, believe in yourself, and take that first step.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Mike. As always, thank you, listeners. Tune in again for our next episode on the 10 steps to your ideal career. And don't forget to check us out on careercompassshow.com. And one more thing, if you're willing to invest in yourself, we are willing to invest in you. And we would be honored to connect you with one of our very own career ownership coaches. Thank you and have an amazing day. And what was the challenge again, Dr. Mike?
So pick that one thing that's been on your mind or bugging you that has just been causing that what if in you, and just step into it, explore it, challenge yourself to make that step and overcome fear and whatever that one thing is over the next week.
Love that. Until next time, have a great, great day.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please go to yourcareerrevolution.com and request your free guide to the benefits of working with a career ownership coach. Thank you so much for listening.